Hi everybody. Today we'll be looking at the program we'll be using throughout the semester. It's a web-based program called Cloud9. As the name suggests, Cloud9 is a cloud-based Linux computer or Linux virtual machine or Linux VM. So it enables us to build these VMs, and these VMs have 512 megabytes of memory and 1 gigabyte of storage. This is big enough to run a database server and maybe have 5,000 entries without a problem. But you may be thinking, hey, wait a minute, why not use our laptops? Our laptops have far more resources than this 512 megabyte of memory. It might have something like 8 gigs of memory, 512 gigs of maybe a solid state drive. So why not use those instead of this system of Cloud9? Wouldn't that make more sense? Well, there's a number of compelling reasons to use Cloud9. The first one is, let's say we go with the approach of using laptops. We've done this a number of years ago in this class. So 2 sections, so that makes 50 different students or 50 different computers or actually 50 different configurations. People have different versions of operating systems. They have different programs installed on their laptops. So this creates a bit of a problem. So when we install the things we need, maybe it'll work for 50 of the laptops, but not others. And then we have to debug what's different about them. So this leads to a lot of frustration. Frustration that continues throughout the semester as updates of the operating system are automatically installed and things break. And again, we're debugging and trying to figure out, well, why isn't it working? So frustration. With Cloud9, we are using one basic, it's basically the same box, a Linux machine. So that really tends to decrease this amount of like, why does it work for you and not for me kind of frustration. The second thing is Cloud9 allows us to do kind of sharing. So we can work with a team on a shared project. We can all be editing in the same IDE, different files, all at the same time. And we could be doing that same approach using the laptops with such technology as Dropbox. That's a pretty handy and convenient thing. Or maybe we'd use Git. But these also lead to hassles. You edit a file, I edit a file, there's some incompatibilities. So it still leads to some frustration, even though they're great tools. With the sharing idea of everyone on the same machine, it reduces frustration and it reduces suffering. So instead of kind of concentrating on trying to debug all these problems of these different versions of computers and hassles with different versions of files, we can really concentrate on what the class is about, what the class material is. Finally, the third benefit of using Cloud9 over our laptops is that this whole class is about developing data-driven web-based applications. Using it on laptops is kind of okay. We can show people what we're doing on our laptop, but it's much cooler to do it kind of in the cloud, so it's visible to anyone with the URL. So these are good reasons, and there are many others for using Cloud9. There are other systems like this that we could use. One is called Coding with a K, and the other we used a few years ago called Nitrous.io. They're basically the same as Cloud9. Cloud9 has some nicer features, I think, so we're going to be going with that. So, to summarize what Cloud9 is, it's a virtual machine, a cloud-based virtual machine, and it's also an IDE. So there's an editor built in and some other tools that help us develop programs. All right, let's get started. So we're going to go to Cloud9, c9.io. And here's where you can sign up for a free account. I'm not going to do that. It's fairly straightforward. So you can just do that on your own. The pricing here is kind of interesting. It just shows you what you get for your free account. So you get these unlimited public workspaces or unlimited computers or virtual machines. What that means is you can have many of these machines, but you can only have one running at a particular moment in time. So you can have one machine for this class, another for another class, and experiment with a few others, but only one can be running. So why don't you go ahead and get a free account, and then we'll resume on how to build a machine. So here I have my dashboard. Yours might be empty other than this create a new workspace, but I have here all the workspaces I previously created. So let's go ahead and create a new workspace here. Workspace name CS350. I already have a CS350. I'll name it C. Obviously, you can name it whatever you darn well like. Description you really don't need, but sure, what the heck, I'm going to make virtual machine for CS350. Sounds like a great name. Here you can have one, with the free account, you could have one private workspace. We don't really need that, so I'm just going to leave mine public. We could clone code from a Git repository to this workspace. Don't need to do that. Here, this choose a template is, we can have a very specialized workspace, one that has all of the WordPress stuff installed, or PHP, Apache, MySQL, if we're doing some old school PHP coding, new school JavaScript, Node.js programming. We're going to leave ours as custom. We're going to kind of build our own. So I'm going to go ahead and creating the workspace. This takes a minute. And there, that was pretty fast. Let me just make some changes quickly here just to make things more legible. So under this Cloud9, there's this preference panel, which I can make things look the way I like with, this black style coding or whatever. I'm going to just do something really boring. I'm just changing font size to make things legible. Whoops, and I'm in the wrong spot. User settings here. You can see there's lots of options, but my terminal I'm going to make just bigger so people can see it. And the editor window I'm also going to enlarge to 16 font. Obviously you don't need to do this, but you may want to, I don't know, maybe you'll see that you would like to have a different theme or something along those lines. So that's preferences. I'm closing that. So here on the bottom, I have just a standard terminal, just like you would if you logged into a department machine. So I can do ls to see what files I currently have in my directory. It's just readme, kind of matches here what that thinks. I can go into Python. I can add in Python, I can add two numbers together. That's always exciting. 4, let me just exit that. I can't think of anything else brilliant to do. Let's go ahead and create a file. That's fairly simple, but just to show you what things look like. So under file here, I can say new file. And I'm going to create a Python file that does something really dumb because I'm just showing you the basics here. I'm not telling you anything about Python. I'm just going to create a file that adds 2 to a number. And let me just save this. I'll just call it add, py here. You can see it does syntax highlighting, so that's very nice. Maybe if I get my cursor back. And it's the only thing it's going to do is return that number that someone passed in plus 2. Pretty boring stuff. All right, now I'm going to print out. I'll just call that function add 2 to 5. All right, that looks good. All right, so let me save that and let's run it. So here you see I have it, add py. If I do an ls down here, it's there. I can call it Python A, so it's add what I want to do. But here's just a shortcut. So once you get something distinctive, like there's a file named A, I can go ahead and hit add, or tab rather, and it'll complete that entry for me. So this is something I use all the time. So if I have some very complex, my favorite server.py, that would really be a hassle to type in all the time, but I could type in my or my, whatever gets me started on the distinctiveness, and hit tab and it would finish it. That's an aside that I wasn't intending to do. All right, so there, that's fairly simple. 7, it just shows you how easy it is to write files or create files and run them in this terminal window. One thing we'll be doing a lot is uploading files from our laptops to this virtual machine. So we'll be writing stuff in the laptop or getting some code from somewhere and wanting to move it to this machine. We can do that by, under this File menu, select Upload Local Files. The new school way of doing things, drag and drop files here. That's cool, but let me, for this, show you the old school way of just select the file. You get this kind of drop-down menu list. That's this fib.py that I'm interested in. You can see it uploaded it, it's there. We can upload multiple files here, so it keeps this window open. Let me go ahead and close that now that I have this fib.py. Again, I'm just trying to show you how things work, and I'm not trying to show you anything fancy, but here is kind of a standard Fibonacci code that you would write in probably 110 or something early on. So the Fibonacci of a number, if the Fibonacci of 1 or 0 is, the Fibonacci of 1 is 1, the Fibonacci of 0 is 0, and the Fibonacci of any other number is the Fibonacci of the previous two numbers, if that makes sense. So let me show you, so that's the old school kind of way, the traditional way of doing it, and let me show you why that's a problem. Okay, so here's a Fibonacci series where I read the Fibonacci of 7 is the Fibonacci of 6 plus the Fibonacci of 5, and the Fibonacci of 6 is the Fibonacci of 5 plus the Fibonacci of 4, and so on. And so when we're doing this, we see that we compute things a lot. Like this Fibonacci of 3, we compute here, and we compute it here, 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 and here. So a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. The Fibonacci of 4, we compute there, there, and there. So we compute that a number of times. So the problem is that we compute these things over and over and over again. All right, so here is a different approach where I remember that I've already computed a Fibonacci of some number, like Fibonacci of 3. That's this memo function. So if I've already computed it, just return it, and here's where else I need to compute that number. So once I computed something like the Fibonacci of 5, I remember it, don't have to compute it again. And here I'm just comparing the two time-wise, which is fast, or how much time it takes. So let's run that. This is called fib. Python fib. And there it is. It shows you how much faster this is, quite substantially faster, 2 seconds almost compared to some fraction. And the other thing I wanted to show, which is up here, that the CPU usage got real high. So you can see that this is high, and it'll eventually, it's kind of a laggy display. Only now does it go down. Let me just run that again, and we can keep an eye on this CPU and how much disk space we're using, how much memory we're using. You can see we're hardly using anything. But let me go ahead and run that again. It's a little processor intensive. Let's go point back up here, and there it spikes up a little bit. Again, it's a laggy thing, and it'll eventually go down. So if you're bored and looking for something to do, heck, you can do this over and over and over again. So the other thing I wanted to mention, kind of the last thing in this video, is this idea that you can share workspaces. Really important if you're working with a partner or working on a team trying to get some website up and running, is you can just share that same workspace. Everyone can be using it. You don't need to pass files back and forth because they're all on that same workspace. So this just says who has access, can read, write access. You can just say people have read access. Here's where you invite people. You just give the C9 username so everyone's can, all the people on your team or your project can work together. Way cool. All right, that's it for the first video.